So nice of you to join me so fast. What's going on? There are more people joining the show so fast than I can remember. Now I know I've been promoting this show, almost like I got Marlon Brando in the green room. The bad news is I don't have Marlon Brando in the green room, but I got the next best thing. I've got developer James Finch ready to go. And we're going to talk about some news that broke today concerning his wife. Do you remember on December 12th in Tallahassee in the federal courtroom, Lynn Haven Police Chief Ricky Ramey showed up in uniform and took the witness stand. And he was asked some serious questions by defense attorney Guy Lewis and by the other defense attorney, Mr. Facina. And it was pretty tough. And when he was being questioned, there was a focus about vindictive arrests, about doing a favor for former city manager Michael White and a vindictive arrest of a woman. And that was the focus. And boy, Chief Ramey, when he left that day, was pissed. And 4 days later, when he got back to Lynn Haven, and 4 days after he got back to Lynn Haven, he arrested James Finch's wife. Said he had her on possession of cocaine. WMBB had it as a top of the page on their website for nearly 24 hours. And it said Lynn Haven drug bust or something like that. Guess what happened today? Prosecutors dropped it. You know why? No evidence. Sounds familiar. Right now, defendant James Finch has a federal motion, a Rule 29, in which he and his lawyers are arguing there's not enough evidence for a jury to convict me of bribery, which is what he's going to trial again for, evidently. He has to go to trial more than once. So it's the fourth rewrite of his indictment, down to 2 charges. He is being charged with conspiracy to bribe a former commissioner and actual bribery, a $5,000 check for the certainty of being able to finance himself, the city, at 2.55% over 30 years for a project that he won. He said, you don't have to pay me the last payment till I'm 95. And the prosecutor said, you don't listen to the jury. The prosecutor said, don't worry if it's a great project, if it was a unanimous vote, if everybody recommended to the council he do it, if he used his own money, if it was half what prime was, none of that matters. It's the wink and the nod we want you to focus. The wink and the nod. That's what they said. And because of that, the jury came back hung. In other words, they were deadlocked. They were deadlocked and they couldn't come to a decision. And so right now, Judge Walker is considering whether or not there's enough evidence for a jury to convict, just like the prosecutors today. Well, actually, a few days ago, just like the prosecutors just said, there's not enough evidence to go in front of a jury and say that James's wife had cocaine possession, which everybody knew was absurd and a lie. I'm going to show you that. And I'm going to show you much more. But before, if we can keep Marlon Brando in the green room for just another moment, tomorrow is a big, big day. A day of accountability. Tomorrow's Super Tuesday. And I want to share 2 paid ads with you right now. These are paid campaign ads, but you know that I believe in both of these people. Judy Tinder is running for mayor of Lynn Haven. The city needs leadership now more than ever. A mayor who serves you rather than big contractors and consultants. As mayor, she'll lead the charge for accountability, starting with the police chief, the city manager, and code enforcement. It's time once again to treat you with the respect you deserve. Vote for Judy Tinder on or before April 18th. Brian Gray is running for Lynn Haven City Commission Seat 1. He wants to reform code enforcement so that everyone is treated equally for once. He rejects adopting the International Property Maintenance Code. Don't turn the city into a giant HOA. Vote for Gray on or before April 18th. All right, here he is. What you've been waiting for. I know it's not me. There he is, James Finch, developer. How you feeling, James? Oh, I'm sorry. All right, we got your mic on.
You got it?
We got you.
Okay. I feel a lot better today since the prosecutor threw out my wife's charges that shouldn't ever happen. And it says, there is insufficient admissible evidence to prove this charge beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt for the following reasons. And they list 7 reasons. This was vindictive on Chief Ramey's part. After we had the hearing over in Tallahassee and all those vulgar texts come out in the Brady material, he kind of blamed me for it. And we had got, finally, the judge turned everything over to us after they found out that the FBI agent was lying to the grand jury. And so Chief Judge Walker says, listen, I'm going to turn over the indictment to the transcript to the defense. And we went through that.
The grand jury transcript.
Yes.
Which was really unusual. That's the first time he's ever done it. First time Guy Lewis has ever seen it. Fewer than 1% of anybody in a defendant like yourself, fewer than 1% of the time do the grand jury transcripts ever come out to the defendant.
Yes, you know, what I learned a lot about the grand jury since all this happened. You know, I've been reading this stuff and looking at it just 4 or 5 hours a day for 3 years. And most people don't know that there's only 2 countries in the world that use the grand jury. And that's the United States and Liberia and Africa. Nobody else uses it. There's not a judge in the grand jury, only the prosecutors. So, and your lawyer tells you you're a fool if you go in there because the lawyer can't go in there with you. So hearsay's good enough, probable cause is good enough. And the old saying is you can indict a ham sandwich.
But James, what we've learned here is not just allegations and that, but even misstatements, even a bunch of them.
Yeah, let's go on what a misstatement is. If you're a defendant, if you're a defense, it's perjury, and if you're somebody else, it's a misstatement. But I can tell you this: out of the evidence that was turned over, there was 31,000 pages of text, and I went through every page, and you know the rest of them hadn't evidently went through them, and so my lawyer brought them up. And, you know, it was from, you know, the chief of police and the city manager having naked pool parties. And, you know, that's their words, not mine. And they all got upset about it. But, I mean, that's what it is. And, I mean, it was so bad. It had a bestiality in there. The city manager was sending bestiality stuff over the internet. I mean, he will make Mike Cohen look like Abraham Lincoln. And Mike Cohen's the attorney that's ratting on Donald Trump.
Right.
But I can tell you this: the chief, if he had any integrity, he would resign his job. You know, the city of Lynn Haven deserves better. The guy is not doing the right job, and so he had my wife charged because I turned that over. They pulled her out of the house, put her in jail, put her in the back, handcuffed her with no shoes on, wouldn't let her get her shoes, took her to jail, put her in there all night long. And, you know, the first thing to do is take you in there and put you in a shower, and they delice your hair, and then they give you a rag to dry your hair off, and then push it back, and they take a picture of you. They humiliate you as bad as they can. And I guess that makes them feel a lot better, but that's not right. And so I mean, she didn't deserve that. And then then to spend all this time waiting for, hey, if they want to come after me, fine. I mean, you know, but they don't need to go after her or anything else. I'm down. I faced every charge they got. And I can tell the people in Lynn Haven, I have not taken a dime. I've not been charged with taking a dime. I've been charged, you know.
And that's interesting, James. People think that, my goodness, when I learned that you were not charged ever with stealing from Lynn Haven, but rather they say that you deprived Lynn Haven of honest services
The citizens of honest services.
because you were bribing the mayor and she was getting everything done by herself. Well,
Well,
we know now that that's a lie from beginning to end. Every one of those charges were dropped.
okay, well, let me tell you. So we started off a bribery on my airplane. The mayor's husband had worked for me for 30 years. They'd been on my plane for 20 years before she ever got elected mayor. She is the only person that worked for the city of Lynn Haven or was elected to an office in the city of Lynn Haven that's ever been on my plane. Nobody in the election or whatever in Lynn Haven. And she was a friend. So we sent the pictures there that she'd been on the plane for 20 years and all that. So they dropped the airplane. They forgot about that. And then they went to my boat, said that I had her on my boat. The week after I got home, October the 30th, I was down in Key West entertaining her on my boat. Well, finally got that straight because my boat had been sold for 3 or 4 months. I didn't even have a damn boat. And so they went from the boat, said, what are we going to do now? So we went, now it's a motorhome. Well, she got the motorhome back 2 or 3 weeks ago after all the stuff in the motorhome. You know, the sheriff's department, one guy states, he says, I was elected to be on the arrest team for Mayor Anderson. Now, I guess they all got around 100 of them, whatever, and crawled in there and sharpened their knives or whatever they did and said, okay, now we got a team. We're going to go arrest her. They went over, surrounded the house, and she was out of town. So they really get upset. So they go over to her daughter's house in Jacksonville, surround her house, chain her up, leg irons, cuff, put her in jail. I mean, just awful stuff. And so, I mean, I don't know why they got to be like that. I don't think a 65-year-old woman at the time was going to kickbox any of them or whatever. But it's unreal. And so out of all these charges, 86 charges, and it's down to 2. And they had a hung jury on that. I'm not going to talk about the 2 charges that I got left. I'm going to go over there and face them. I plan on beating their ass because I'm innocent. And but what they did before, all this stuff, all these charges, everything they're out of control. I mean,
James, let's talk about this. Let's talk about when you and Margot say, and I believe it now because I've seen it and I'll show it. We'll show everybody. Yeah. Margot says that she was the whistleblower on April 1st, 2019. 2019, she blew the whistle. And she blew the whistle because you and her, who have been lifelong friends, and it's appropriate to talk. You and her can talk all you want. She just can't talk to other commissioners without being in a meeting. And you were starting to feel better. You had been back for about 6 months or so from your stroke during the hurricane. So you're back. You're feeling better. It's about March of 2019, and you're driving around Sheffield Park, and you're ready to do some business again. Let everybody know what you saw and how this all came about.
My company had a little job at Porter Park. They were doing building a facility in a barbecue pit, and it had a bathroom, and it was a bid job, and I was low bid. And the bathroom at the Porter Park I had a line item of $56,000 to build a bathroom. So I see a bathroom being built at Sheffield Park. And I asked Margot, I said, Margot, will you find out who's building that building? You know, I might want them to build the one I got to build down at Porter Park. And so she said, I'll find out who it is. So she comes back to me and says, we don't have a contract, but we've paid $183,000 so far, and we've got a bill here for 50-something thousand more. 220-something thousand, I think it was. I like to have passed out. I said, you kidding me? And she said, and we've paid this contractor $4.9 million. And I said, this guy's not a contractor. He doesn't have a license. So, I said, you need to go see, I believe it's Jay Moody was the outside accountant for the city of Lynn Haven. I said, you need to go see him And if those numbers are right, please go to Tommy Ford and tell him, said, hey, wake up. There's a bunch of thieving going on.
And so this stuff happened after the hurricane. Okay, I think everybody should know this timeline, James, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah.
Hurricane Michael was October 10 of 2018.
Yes.
You had a brain bleed and a stroke, and you were in the hospital from October 4 to October 30th.
30th, that's true.
When you got back, you didn't know there was a hurricane until you saw the trees on the way home because your condition was that precarious.
They wouldn't let me know that. They wouldn't let me know that there was a hurricane hit Panama City or Lynn Haven. They told me on the way home. They drove me home. They told me that they had the pictures by plane on the airplane on the Channel 13 showing Margot getting on the plane and off the plane. And I knew something was wrong because my plane was up in Illinois being painted before I was even in the hospital. So it was a new paint job, and it was the old paint job. And so I said, these pictures could be 5 years old or 2 years old. I don't know what they are, but it's, the plane's still here. And so, they kind of said, well, the plane's not a big deal now. So they wound up going to the motorhome. Now they've returned the motorhome. The motorhome's back in Lee's house. And so I'm glad that it got it back, but it's been a total damn disaster what's been going on with me, as far as trying to, fight the government and then argue with Lynn Haven. And then Lynn Haven's got the worst administration I've ever seen. I've been here all my life.
Yeah. James, let's go back to the whistleblower part. So all of this stuff happened, right? The ECS owner, Mickey White, was getting contracts, building stuff he wasn't qualified to build. And you saw this and you figured it out in March. And then Margot takes that information on April 1st of 2019 and tells Sheriff Tommy Ford. And what happened 4 days later or 3 days later, I'll tell you what happened. Because the evidence has been released, the trial's already taken place. Here is what the Bay County Sheriff's report says, and it was dated April 4. That's 3 days after Margot Anderson told Sheriff Ford. And look at that bottom paragraph. It said, I reported my findings. On April 1st, Lynn Haven Mayor Margot Anderson met with Sheriff Ford and asked the Sheriff's Office to conduct an investigation into improper actions by ex-city manager Mike White and his dealings with ECS. Sheriff Ford and I met afterward and chose a small group to work on this complaint, his public trust unit. The sheriff, that group included Lieutenant Mathis, Investigator Chance, and Annalise Miller. 2 days after Margot went there, Sheriff Ford and I met with the group and briefed them on the investigation. And then they brought in Agent Borghini and the FBI. So they themselves now, admitted then, James, that Margot Anderson did indeed blow the whistle.
Well, they've denied it, but I mean, that's exactly what happened. You read it. And I mean, that's the truth as I know it. And I mean, they don't want to give her any credit for doing that because, they charging her and to get public corruption. They had the mayor, they had the city manager, they had the city attorney, they had, the other people working with the city or contractors with the city. And then they charged me. And so then that's when we started having problems. They, had a real problem with me helping Margot with their attorney fees because I knew that the federal government would just squash her. They squash everybody if they don't have enough money to defend themselves. I mean, I don't know what it's 96, 98% what people plead out guilty because they just got to give up.
Yeah, that really did make them mad. James, hang on. I want to thank a couple of my sponsors, and when we get back, I want to talk to you about the 17th Street Ditch Project. If you're able to, because you still might be facing the second trial right after this.
Is your past ruining your future? Having your record sealed or expunged wipes the slate clean. providing you with a new opportunity in life. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 215-0628.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. James, you know what might be a good idea is if we let everybody know where it stands now. Let me kind of let everybody know. You faced 4 rewrites of an indictment. That's 4
That's
times
true.
you were indicted.
That's
Each
true.
time it was less and less and less. Then you faced trial.
Yes.
And on 2 charges, and they were both hung juries. That's a mistrial. Now the prosecutors get to decide if they want to retry you on these 2 counts. And if so, the judge has marked off July for that. But we don't know yet if the prosecutors want to take another stab at this. Right now, your defense attorney, Guy Lewis, has filed a Rule 29, a federal motion saying, Your Honor, you've seen that there's not enough evidence for a jury to convict. And the prosecutors are writing a response to that. And I'd say within the next 2 weeks, we're likely to get a decision from Judge Walker whether or not he is now going to acquit you after the jury's had their chance. And we're not going to speculate on that. But
Right.
that's where we are now, right?
Yes.
So what are you able to talk to us a little bit about the 17th Street Ditch Project in Lynn Haven? Because people don't realize this was a 50-year, 60-year problem. It wasn't just a ditch. It was a ravine about 15 feet deep sometimes that people were crashing in and dying. And the city wasn't doing anything about it. And you step in 2016, and what happens?
Well, the city had for several years bid out 200 and 300 foot at a time. I think there was 5 contracts, and I'd got 3 of them, I believe. And I usually bid some work here in Lynn Haven if something comes up close, whatever. Most of my work has always been 90% of it, 95. It's always been out of town or whatever. I do the county. I hadn't worked for the city of Panama City in 10 or 15 years. The beach in 10 or 15 years. The county, I've worked a few things. I built their new landfill after the hurricane, and finished that last year or whenever. But I got the $335,000 contract. I think there was 5 bidders, and I was the low bidder. And it comes right beside my property. It was within 2. It's adjacent to my property as it comes down through town. So when I was bidding a $335,000 part, and I was working on it, they were trying to go for a grant to receive some money and try and fix the problem now. And it was a competition grant, and probably wasn't going to get it, but Joel Schubert was trying to get it. He did a good job.
The city manager at the time.
As city manager at the time. That's true. So,
and it's important that people know, James, you and him in 2016 had the same idea.
Yes.
Because you've had a hard time with the last 2 city managers, but you and him had the same idea. Let's fix the whole thing now. And Schubert was working on with the commission's direction. He was working on getting a DOT grant. You were working on loaning your own money, and you were going to get the whole damn thing fixed finally.
Well, they had an estimate of $7.5 to $8 million to do the whole project. I got to working on it, and I come up with a price of $5.2 million. And I said, look, I will loan you the money, fix the whole job for $5.2 million. Now, they say that I had some of the commissioners bribed. Well, I'd be pretty stupid to bribe them and do it for $5.2 million. If I had them bribed, I'd have wanted the 7.5 or 8.
Right.
But I said, I can fix it for $5.2 million. And they says, okay, take it to the commission. Commission loved it. The people in the audience loved it. Said, hey, we want to do it. We want to do every bit of it. Well, Joel Schubert says, listen, I'm still trying to get the DOT to take part of the ditch. And so let's take the east side at $3.7 million, and we'll do it for 20 years. I'd give them up to 30 years for the financing. So somebody in the audience says, well, how do we know that the price is going to be $3.7 million? And without him wanting a change order every 3 weeks.
And explain what that means, James. That's how
Well,
other contractors inflate the prices after they get the deal.
well, no, I mean, sometimes in all reality, if they leave something out, if you dig in a ditch, you put in a pipe in it, and you hit a railroad car down there, say, hey, you got to change the condition here. I got to get this railroad car out before I can lay the pipe.
Right.
So I mean, then you negotiate the price, and everybody says, there's an old saying, there was a big cartoon with this guy, the construction company's boat, and it was about 12 foot long, and then he was pulling the change order, and it was 150 foot long yacht, So,
Right.
but anyways, it was $5.2 million. Said we'll do the thing. So Joel says, I'm going to try and get the DOT to take part of this ditch, and he did. He was successful in doing that. And so they said, well, how do we know we're going to do it for $3.7 million? And I said, well, I tell you what, I will do all the east side of the thing if you'll give me a notice to proceed, and I won't charge you any. Don't pay me nothing until I'm through. So the guy said, wait a minute, you're going to finish the whole thing and not get, I said, I'm going to finish the whole thing and not going to charge you a dime until you accept it. And all the agencies sign off on it. So that's what we did. And so I did that. Joel was able to get part of the DOT. They took 700-800 foot of it. It was $957,000. So the DOT kicked in the $957,000 to do their part of the ditch. All right. Well, there was 668 feet left, I believe. And Joel says, James, you said you would hold your price for a year, and it's been over a year. He says, can you prorate the rest of the ditch and let's finish the whole ditch? And I'll take it for the commission. And I says, yes, I will. And it was $668,000 to finish the ditch. They voted for it, and it was all said and done. But here's the part about that I have a problem with, and it hadn't come out yet. The ditch was accepted in April of 17. The $668,000 when Joel was there and he was leaving, taking a job with the county. That was the last financial part that the city ever done on the ditch. And Michael White didn't even come to work until July of 17. Yeah. And he's there saying, oh, this about the ditch. And he never did anything about the ditch. He was confused. I mean,
let me catch people up on this. This is important because Michael White became the city manager after April of 2017. And he's the primary witness against you.
Yes.
Now, he, of course, is awaiting sentencing for stealing, they say, as much as $5 million.
Yeah.
And he's the prime witness against you. And he claims, James, that after Joel Schubert was the city manager, when he was the city manager, he claims that he met you out at Sheffield Park and you told him you had Antonius Barnes, Commissioner Barnes, you had that secured, meaning you needed the financing from the city. But what the jury found out, James, is that that's impossible because you had already financed the whole deal.
It was my money
before Michael White was. And let's take a look at the transcript here. Look at this. This is the question by your attorney. You're talking about you financing he needed Barnes's vote. Yes, sir, says Michael White. Your attorney says, who was the city manager before you? Joel Schubert. We've been talking about this. Joel Schubert would have been the one, right? And he goes on and he says, the original contracts were all done before. I think so. Yes, sir. So this is in testimony, James. This is not just you saying it.
This
is in testimony.
That's true. Well, see, I'm not charged with the 17th Street deal. There's a conspiracy in these last two charges. and whatever they want to bring up there. I want to go finish this in court. If the judge doesn't throw it out, he says he's come so close, and whatever. But hopefully, I tell you what, he turned over the transcript for my case, and I'm so grateful that he did that, because I didn't know what was going on at all. When I got home and when I read the indictment, man, they were saying that I was doing this. I was holding meetings at my house. I was running this, kind of like, it was just unreal. And so we have fought this thing tooth and nail for going on 2.5 years. And we were down from 86 charges to 2. We've had a hung jury on those. And I look forward, if they want to go back, let's go back and get it over with. But don't put it off no more. And I just wanted the people in Lynn Haven, every time I'd read something, Channel 13, it would be different from this. And, they said this, they said that, whatever they want to say, they can say. 20 minutes after they arrested my wife, they had it on the news, and it was all set up. And I really have got a problem with Judge Campbell down there giving them a warrant, something they throwed out. I mean, you go to a judge that's going to give you something when the rest of them won't. But that was wrong. And
just so people who just tuned in, it was dismissed. I found out today that the local prosecutor has dismissed the ridiculous charge. And I do want to go over one thing. I want to point this out, James. One of the reasons that we were told that she was arrested on that Friday, 3 days after Chief Ramey was grilled on the witness stand in front of Judge Walker, on December 16th, they said they arrested her on Friday because the fingerprint evidence finally came in. But let's take a look at what the prosecutors now say in point number 5. The evidence that came in, the vial cap containing the defendant's fingerprint was loose and was not attached to any container with controlled substances. So to say they were waiting on the smoking gun, James, we now know, and you knew all the time, is ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, I don't know if the fingerprint on a cap, a bottle cap, and then, but the residue, this was cocaine residue. They had to send it to the lab to see if there was any in there, so that was a whole lot. But they arrested her on Friday afternoon, so she'd have to stay in jail overnight. That's the reason they did that. Yeah. They didn't want to do it in the morning when she could get out or whatever. And that's our police chief up here in Lynn Haven, the one with all the blacked out cars. When you chase a policeman down now, you don't know if you're going to get a pimp or a policeman. You can't see in the vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, you can't call for help. You can't flag down help because you don't know who's in the vehicles. James, let's talk a little bit about how surprised you were, maybe, or disappointed or shocked when the current city manager, Vicki Gaynor, was on the witness stand. I was there. You were sitting up front as the defendant. It was December 12th. It was an evidentiary hearing. And
everybody can read it. I mean, everybody can read it. It's the pages. I mean, she was bragging on Michael White, and and finally said how great he was and all that stuff. And then they asked her, said, well, didn't he steal $5 million? She said, yes, like it was nothing to it. I had a contract that I bid in to paving the roads. That's I was $271,000 low on a portion of roads, and they threw my bid out. They said, well, it's too high. We're going to take out some roads and rebid it.
Who did that? Who specifically?
That was Vicki Gaynor and
Chris, city manager,
and Chris Forehand.
Okay.
So
the city engineer, the city contracted engineer.
yes. So they get together and they say, well, she tells forehand that she don't want to do any business with me anymore. And then forehand, was doing business with her. So they need to make a choice or whatever. So they redid the bid documents and then told me I wasn't qualified to do the job. I just done 20 something miles to the city, and I'm doing a $90 million 6-lane through the city of Lynn Haven. And they said that I wasn't qualified because I didn't do the paving. I do everything but the paving. The paving's the smallest part of the job. All the utilities, the grading, and when you ride by my place, I got more equipment than any of the pavers around here's got. And but I don't have an asphalt plant. I buy the asphalt like everybody else to get it paved. And so they disqualified me. So they bid the job out. My attorney sent it to her, and she's on the stand and said, hey, when you qualify, the DOT's got James qualified for $250 million worth of work. He's qualified in all the categories, and we qualify the people. So they bid it out again. I didn't bid it. They did less roads, and it was a little over $300,000 higher than my bid was to do the other roads. So they awarded it then. So it cost the city $300,000 on those roads. And but right
James,
now.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, you
no,
go ahead. Okay, so what I wanted to do is I've been telling everybody since we decided that you want to come on the show, and I was excited to put you on the show. One of the things that I learned that I just still can't believe is the way that the mayor's police chief, the city's police chief, was wired. He was wearing an FBI wire trying to, and he wore it a lot, evidently. They got a lot of secret tapes of you behind closed doors negotiating a new city hall in 2020. And they got a lot of audio of Mayor Margo Anderson, FBI secret wires. Why did they not play any of this?
I don't know if it was the FBI secret wires. Ramey, from what I understand, wears wire full time. Everybody he talks to's got a wire. He's got a wire, and most of his policemen are wearing them. But I do know when I got the evidence, when they turned over the evidence, when Judge Walker turned them over, we were listening. I was listening to the stuff that come out, and then I hear Ramey talking. Coming. Says, Larry, can you hear me? And Larry was Lawrence Borghini, the FBI guy. And then next thing I hear him, he's talking to my daughter at the front office. And he comes on back there in the office. They asked me to meet with them to try and save them some money I offered to save them some money or to help show them, because I didn't think they were qualified to build those buildings or know what they were doing.
We're talking now about probably April-ish of 2020, about 3 months, 4 months, 5 months before Mayor Anderson's indicted. And they need to build a new city hall, right? And they've got choices. Yes. They've got one idea that's about $27 million with parking. And you've got a different idea. Yours is about $15 million.
Yes.
Almost half the price.
With some land.
And this is the meeting at your office that includes you and Mayor Anderson, which is allowed and legal and appropriate, the city manager, Vicki Gaynor, and the police chief, Ricky Ramey. You're in a meeting. You don't know he's wired. What did they catch you saying?
Nothing. I told them they were too damn high on what they were going to pay for the buildings, and they didn't need. I told Ramey, I said, you don't need a 1,800 square foot office. You don't need a $430,000 kitchen. Now, this is the stuff, Bernie, right there. You got it. I mean,
there's the kitchen. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Here's let's see here. Let's see if I have it. There it is. Look.
Now this is from the architects. This is not from me. And this is presented to them. When I looked at it, I said, good gracious. I said, come on, guys, y'all cannot do this. And you'll see that in that right down there is an option for a parking garage. If you know, the city hall that they're building now don't have any parking, but they don't even have anywhere to put the parking garage. But in the fine print down there is $4 million for the parking garage.
So right in the middle, we see 22.7 million. That's how much to do the whole new city hall, police, all that stuff, plus 4 million. So we're looking at $28 million is their idea. They're in your office in 2020. And look what else they want to do, James. This is talk about the police station inside of City Hall or at City Hall.
Yes. Let's see. Chief Ramey's office is $398,000. Let's see. Can you scroll it up some there? Right down there. The kitchen. Now here's the professional kitchen. $440,300. A cooler and a freezer. $100,000, staff restroom, professional.
And this is just inside the police station?
Yes, it's in the police station. If you scroll down just a little bit down, communications center, $180,000. The commander's reception and assistant, closet, restroom, and shower. Commander's office, 5 at 140 people, administrative assistant's office, conference room, 10 occupants, workroom, storage, 1,750 square feet.
We're talking a lot.
I said, square footage is money. I said, y'all started off at 3,500. And I said, you got 6,000 in the trailer. I said, I was proposing 12,000 and 10,000 for the EOC at a separate building, and which was 22,000 feet. And he said, no, both of them had to be in one building. I said, why would you do that? He says, well, how in the hell can I be running back and forth from the EOC and the police department in the middle of a hurricane? I said, well, I thought you would set it out 3 or 4 hours and then walk over there after the hurricane passed. And I mean, that's what he's got on the tape. You know, he's all taped up and all, so play it, as he says. But, you know, there's the actual figures that I got in an argument with about. And finally, when they was going to do a design build, they voted to do that. And they were so mad and so upset. I wrote Vicki a letter. You've got a copy of the letter. And I said, I'm withdrawing. I don't want nothing to do with y'all. So they were trying to get me charged with trying to take over this, like I was taking over the city structures. I was trying to help them.
I think it's super important, James, that everybody realize that.
That's the only reason I'm on here tonight.
Yeah, it's super important to. It takes me a while, dude. This stuff, so there's so much of this. But regarding the rebuild of the city hall and the police station and stuff, this was April of 2020-ish, somewhere around there. Your idea is 15 million. Their idea is almost 28 million.
Well,
and you're the one who's facing trial.
Hey, it's $15 million with 5 acres, almost 5 acres of land. They're building on their land. But also in that $15 million, it was to fix the old city hall that's on the corner there. And Margot wanted that, and I had a problem with it. I didn't want it. I said, I think you should tear it down. This is not Mayberry. Let's get rid of it. You got to have some parking up there if you're going to do anything up there.
Wait, so you and Mayor Margot Anderson disagreed. You thought, let's get rid of the old building. She wanted to keep the old building.
Yes, that's right. And
so you guys didn't agree on that.
I didn't agree on that, but I had it priced up in the $15 million. If they didn't want that, and they didn't want me to fix a media center over there for a library, price was at like $13 million, including the land.
Well, I don't know a lot of mayors who are bought off, who are arguing with the people supposed to be buying them off, James.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I tell you what, I love Lynn Haven. And one reason I'm on here now, Bernie, is to tell you and everybody else, they're wrong when they say that James Finch ever tried to do anything harmful to the city of Lynn Haven or the citizens. You know, I've donated to the city. I love the city, and I'm ashamed of what has happened at the city. You know, this is public records and the court records. They was talking about me bringing Joel Schubert over here and trying to offer him a raise to the city, like I was running the city. I was trying to get Joel to consider taking the job back, and I would try and lobby for him some more money, because look what we got when Joel left. What did that cost the city?
Yeah.
And we give him more money than Joel was making, and I thought that was unfair.
Hey, James, we got a challenge.
I mean, me and Joel's not the best friends, but Joel did a good job up here. You know what I said? You got to give a devil his due. I mean, Joel Schubert, I thought, did a good job, and so.
Yeah, you've told me that.
Well, I mean, I called him up a year or two ago. I hadn't talked to him since, and I was reading into some of the stuff I got that he put me on a speakerphone and had the county manager listening in, and he was really kind of rude to me about, I was asking about it, and I said, okay. I never called him back. He didn't want to be involved in any of it, and I don't blame him, whatever, but he was rude, and I said, to hell with it. But as far as him doing a good job, I got to give it to him. He did a good job.
Even though he did that to you, James, if you had a vote and you could bring Joel Schubert back to run Lynn Haven, even though you two don't get along, do you think he would do a good job?
Well, all I know is he did do a good job. He's more than capable of doing a good job, and I don't know why he wouldn't, right. But I mean, they need a good city manager up there. When you don't have the city manager runs the city, they try and make out like the mayor does, but the mayor doesn't run the city. The city manager does the work. And that's where we're in the position we are now. We've got a city manager that don't really understand anything about the building, the water and sewer, the tax. I mean, whatever. I mean, we need some help up there. And the reason I'm saying that, Vicky's done everything she can do to try and put me out of business. And believe me, I'm not going out of business. I'm going to be in business, hell, I don't have anything else. I might die or whatever, but she's not going to run me out.
You got to stick around, James, because you told them they didn't have to pay you back for the 17th Street ditch until you're 95 years old.
Hey, now I talked them into taking the money, and they were talking about, like, I said, they can't say I stole anything. It's my money.
It's unbelievable. James, we have a challenge here, and then I'm going to wrap this up. And if you want to come back and cover some more detail stuff, we can do that. But let's take this challenge here, because I've heard this talked about in court. Jason here says that the city cannot get reimbursed by FEMA on a design build.
Who said that?
This gentleman named Jason FN says you can't get reimbursed by FEMA on design build. You can fact check that, but I heard you.
Wait, I got the book of FEMA. You want the book? I'll send you the book tomorrow. It shows you can do anything you want to on design build and all that. They're full of S. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I mean, I'm going by the book that FEMA has.
Well, here's what I saw, James, that Mr. Jason FN did not see. I watched. I believe this was when your defense attorney, I think they had up the FBI agent Borghini on December 12th or so, or 13th maybe. And they were talking about this. And he was also under the impression that FEMA would not reimburse your design build idea. But when you showed him that wasn't true.
Let me tell you something. All those architects, they were 8 or 10 or 12 of them up there. You seen what they were doing. They were wanting $900,000 of that 22 million. They were going to buy the furniture for $558,000. They were charging fees on all that. The $13 million that I was going to do the thing with, I had $75,000 in there for engineering and architecture. They got $900,000. So I'm glad I didn't get it. I'm tired of arguing with them about it. I want to be able to finish this up as far as my trial. But I wanted the people in the city of Lynn Haven, don't listen to the news, Bernie. I didn't even know you before this happened. And, you're the only one.
We met a year ago. A year ago. And it was in court, and it was during this thing. And
you thought I was guilty.
Well, I was going to say about a year and a half ago, I need to find it and post it. I
Yeah.
posted that you had bribed Barnes, and
Yeah.
I thought for sure, with all 86 charges, James, I thought for sure you had to have done some of it. But
Yeah.
you and Margot asked me to look at it, and I said, if I do this, it's not going to be good if I find something.
That's
And
right.
I'll be damned what I found. I cannot believe what I found. What I found is that there were people, and this is the same thing the FBI told another judge in the FBI search warrant affidavit that surfaced. Other people were doing what they're accusing you and Margot of doing. Their very testimony to another judge refutes what they're saying now, and it's shocking. It is shocking.
Well, I hope Tommy Ford's looking tonight, because I got something I want to say to him. Tommy, I come to you and I told you about this, and you kind of shunned me away, and then you call me up and you kind of pop off to me about Jimmy Stanford, and you told me that was all BS about Jimmy Stanford. I want to tell you something, Tommy. Read all the documents. I never said a word about Jimmy Stanford being corrupt. It was everybody else, and you can read it. And the fact is, I have not said that. My lawyer said, listen, who is Jimmy Stanford? And I said, he's Tommy Ford's main guy, one of them. He said, well, everybody in here saying he's corrupt. He's doing this. And I said, and he says, I got to use it. He says, I got to use that because I'm defending you. I said, do what you got to do. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I went down there to see him. I was the chairman of the Contractors Association. I went down there to see Tommy about Chief Ramey. He's up there writing building permits and changing building permits. They fired the building guy. Vicky does. There's some lawsuits coming about that. And Michael Gordon and them, and there's some lawsuits coming. They've done that guy wrong. He's waiting to have his turn, but the common denominator on the lawsuits in Lynn Haven is Vicky Gaynor and Chief Ramey. But I will be bringing a federal lawsuit against the city of Lynn Haven and Mr. Ramey, and I'm going to give them some of this they've been giving me, because I've had me enough of it. I've done a lot for Lynn Haven, way more than they have. And, they want to say that I've mistreated Lynn Haven or done something. I'm really upset about that. So
I'll tell you what I saw. I want everybody to know what I saw, James. What I saw when I was in there and you were a defendant. I saw Vicky Gaynor, the city manager, go up on December 12th. And I saw things I couldn't believe. As a matter of fact, I will put the documents up soon so everybody can see it. But she was asked by the defense attorneys, you're the city manager, you're in charge of it. Did you ever tell a city contracted engineer, a private engineer, Chris Forehand? And Chris, I told you I'd tell you if I brought up your name, and I didn't plan to do this, but it's in there. So Chris Forehand is a engineer that gets a lot of business with the city of Lynn Haven. And I couldn't believe that there was a document where the city manager who hires him tells him it would be a good idea for him not to do business with you on a personal level. And Judge Walker said, this sounds like she might be using her position to deprive you of private business you're entitled to. So when you talk about bringing lawsuits, that's the kind of stuff you're talking about, right?
Yes. Well, that's the only way I'm going to get it out.
Amazing.
You know what I'm talking about? It's just it's been unreal. It's been going on 2.5 years that I couldn't talk to this one. I couldn't go to City Hall. I couldn't do this, whatever. I'm doing some development, and around this, I can't talk to anybody in the city and all. So the judge done away with all that, said, okay, but they didn't want me to talk about anything when I was in a damn coma when this started. So I thought that was a pretty good alibi, but evidently it wasn't, so I said, I'll try and find out. But Bernie, I'm going to go and I'm going to go defend those 2 charges when they come up. And I'm going to be here in Lynn Haven. As long as I last, I'll be here. When I first got indicted and arraigned, they first thing they done was told the judge that I had an airplane, 2 airplanes, that I had enough money to leave and not come back. And I told the judge, I said, Judge, my office is 2 blocks from where I was born. I said, you might put me in jail one day, but the day I get out, I'm going to be back in Lynn Haven. And that's where I'm going to be. And I'm sure not going to screw over the people in this city that I love that much. So,
well, it's been incredible for me to see that you loaned the city about $4 million for the 17th Street ditch and other stuff they added to it at 2.55% when the prime was 5.8%, and told them, don't pay me back until I'm 95, make your last payment. And you got in trouble for that. That is unfriggin' believable.
Hey, let me tell you something. If you remember, I told you that when they put in the last $668,000 and 3.7, that's not 5.2 million. That is 4.3 million, 88,000, whatever. So later on, after we finish the 17th Street ditch, Lynn Haven comes to me and says, hey, will you help us fix some stuff in Colorado and Mississippi on the other side of town? When they knew that I said I'd loan them 5.2 million, they figured out that I only used 4.3 to finish the ditch, along with Joel Schubert's help from the state. So I said, yes. So they come up with 790. I said, okay, give me some drawings and I'll price it up. And I price it up. So now they're saying that that's part of my charges or whatever, but I'm going to fight that. And I'm not going to say any more about it, but I can say this. I love Lynn Haven. I'm going to do everything I can for Lynn Haven. Even if I got to sue them, I don't want their money. I want justice. The DOJ over there wants a win. They don't give a damn about justice, or they'd have stopped this a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. I've been doing this. In 2007, I arrived in Panama City, and it was the boot camp drill instructor case with Martin Lee Anderson. And Charlie Siebert, the medical examiner, came on and said he was right. And I said, look, man, if you're lying, I'll put you on the show. But if you're lying, I'm going to catch you, and I'm going to tell everybody. And guess what? He told the truth, and he was acquitted. In 2013, it happened again. I met a guy named Nick Finch, Sheriff Nick Finch, who was wrongly charged as a sheriff in Liberty County. And I did the same thing, James. I put him on the show. I said, if I catch you lying, and if you really did it, I'm going to have to tell everybody. And he was acquitted because he was telling the truth. And you're the third time this has happened to me. And I'll say it to you, James. If I catch you lying, and if you did do it, I got to tell everybody.
Please do.
Is that fair? Is that fair?
Please do.
All right, James, I so far what I've seen is unbelievable. And thank you for coming on the show and opening up. And I really appreciate it. And I know everybody else does too.
There's a vote tomorrow. Everybody needs to vote.
Oh, that's right. I'll talk about that. All right, James, I'll let you go and I'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye. Well, how about that? That was pretty serious, straight from the horse's mouth. And like he said, there is an election tomorrow. If you, golly, not just in Lynn Haven either. There's an election in Panama City. And I've been telling you that if you want a mayor in Panama City who cares about the residents and not just the big contractors, well, you've got a choice too. This is a paid campaign ad, and I believe in it. Doc Rowan is running for mayor of Panama City. The city wants to spend $170 million to build a new civic center. They could have restored it for $12 million. Why are they so determined to spend more than $150 million than they should? And they want to shut down the boat ramp in the marina. If they have their way, generations of boaters and fishermen would become second-class citizens. It's time for a mayor who puts you first, rather than the big developers. Vote for Doc Rowan on or before April 18th. It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan could make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com. All right, tomorrow is Super Tuesday, and if you care about Lynn Haven, and I'm sure you do, that's why you're here, It's at the senior activity. I believe, if I'm wrong, somebody fix this, but I believe that you vote at the senior center over on Pennsylvania, 905 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I sure hope that you take control and drain the swamp over there. I hope you vote for Tinder, Gray, Walker, and Fields. 4 out of the 5 seats are up for grabs. But if everybody just sits around and hopes the other person fixes it, you're in for a long next few years. This is a great opportunity, and I look forward to joining you again soon. All right. Thanks for being with me. I do want to thank, as always, the Unknown Patriot for your support so I can continue to try and tell you the truth the best I see it. And, of course, if you're in Pensacola, I want to make sure you see this.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
All right, big day tomorrow. Thanks for being with me. I hope that you share this show, tag your friends if you want them to see this, and I'll keep you up to date as best I can. I'll see you soon.